You're listening to the Ones Ready podcast, a team of Air Force Special Operators forged in combat with over 70 years of combined operational experience, as well as a decade of selection instructor experience. If you're tired of settling and you want to do something you truly believe in, you're in the right place. Now here's your host, former Prep Course Ops Superintendent and current Special Reconnaissance Training Guru, Trent Segmiller.
And welcome back to another Ones Ready podcast, everybody. You're here with Aaron, Jared, and Trent, not necessarily in that order of importance. And today we're going to give you some knowledge and some lessons. Before we get to that, as always, just want to thank the people that look out for us so we can look out for you. Today we're talking about Eberly Stock. Head over to Eberly Stock to get yourself a bag, put in the Ones Ready code, get a discount. They also have good, like pants and jackets and everything that you need to either be a tactical nerd or a hunting nerd. And you know how you guys, I say nerd in the best possible way. I love it. I love when people get into things, get good at stuff, and Eberly Stock has definitely done that with their gear game. They're all over, and they have the best stuff out there on the market. I use it, and I know the other guys use it, and we love it. Aaron usually has something to say right now because I boloed the intro, and I don't say anything.
I was laughing mainly because the intro is terrible. I love when you do intros. They're always I never know what's going to happen. I just buckle up, I just hold on, and I'm like, where are we going? And sometimes I'm like, land the plane, Trent. Where are we going here, buddy? Sometimes you crush it. Today you didn't do a bad job. I have you were talking about pants and jackets and stuff and being a hunting nerd. I have this one jacket, this pullover that I have from them. It's like a 3/4 zip. It's the most fantastic jacket I ever have. I get excited when I have a reason to pull that bad boy out and wear it. So shout out to Eberly Stock for helping out, and shout out to Trent for apparently working on the intros when no one else is around, because at least that one was like coherent. It was to the point. Use code Ones Ready at checkout. That's important. You got to say it like 3 times. So use code Ones Ready at checkout over at eberlystock.com and get you a sweet pack or one of those sweet zips. But Ones Ready at checkout. You're doing great.
See, I don't even know why I do intros because I just throw it over to you to fix it for me. I'm like, Aaron, help me over here. I didn't plan for this at all.
Nothing makes me more happy when we decide, and it's always right before we get on, who's going to do the intro. And I love it when it's you, because I'm just like, he wasn't expecting it. We weren't expecting it. Nobody was expecting it. We're just going to go for it. I love it.
You want another? Yeah. So speaking of things happening and not expecting them, we're going to talk about expectations management today.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Do you see what you did there? That was awful. That was the worst transition of all time. It was great.
That's how I do things. I don't care. So I did want to. I wrote this up, and I was thinking about it as you go through your career, and all of us have been basically all the way through our careers. Almost, we're almost there. We're not super old yet, except for Jared. But there are things that happens, and I think what happens a lot of times, and we look at a lot of the questions that we get in, and we interact with a lot of the young folks, and one of the things that I want to talk about is expectation management. Like, what happens not only when you get into the pipeline, which we talk about a lot, but what happens once you get the funny hat? Because no one, I think, has really mapped out that road very well, and some of the pitfalls and some of the other things that go along with that, and our experiences, or mostly, Jared's experiences. So, Jared, what happens after you get your beret? And was it what you expected? And how did all that go down? Because I don't think we've really ever talked about all the things that happen once you get the funny hat, and then what's expected, and did it meet your expectations?
So, for me, I didn't really know what to expect because nobody really talked about it. So I guess it would be I just kind of stayed quiet as I could possibly be anyway, because I'm not actually that quiet, and try and learn from the dudes that are on team, because the teams look a lot different now than they did when I came in. When I came in, you were looking at 7 to 10 dudes on a team, and usually a squadron would have 3 teams. So, we were all close, all tight knit, and when I got the team, they were all dudes that had done stuff in Somalia, so they were all war proven, as well. So, and again, they were the war heroes, if you want to call it that or whatever, because they were all decorated and all really good people to look up to. Aaron, I know you know Bill Adams. Trent, I'm not sure if you do or not, but like Bill Adams was a tech sergeant. He was my him and Eric Nielsen were like the guys that grabbed me on team that had been on there for a while and helped mentor me and teach me. And 2 great dudes to have as mentors. But So I didn't really know what to expect coming in upon graduation. But what happened for me was you start going on close air support trips, you start going on shooting schools. Um, Driving wasn't as big of a thing then. It was primarily close air support trips and shooting schools, and then working on getting your upgrade because um, a lot of us didn't. So in the Air Force, you guys know this, but for the other folks, there's skill levels in the Air Force that you have to complete certain tasks and certain tests to get your upgraded skill level, your 3 level, your 5 level, your 7 level. And those levels will allow you to do certain things on your own. So upon graduation, you're 3 level. Then you go to STTS if you're going into the special tactics world for the PJs. And then you leave there, hopefully, with your 5 level, which gives you, a certain amount of freedom, if you will, to operate and do things. And then you get your 7 level and so on. But I didn't know what 3 level was. I didn't know what 5 level was. I was,
Right.
I was dumb. And
and for everybody out
I
there
would
too,
argue that some people probably don't know that coming in either, what 3 level, 5 level, 7 level is.
and it is intense, like trying to boil that process down, like trying to boil down upgrades. Like we all inherently understand it because we've been living it for 20 years. It's hard to
Right.
explain to somebody, but the short answer here is like there's always these really hard to get events too. So if you didn't hit your upgrade just right, or if the guys were gone, like sometimes you'd get on a different cycle, like you'd be supporting a different team, and I didn't see like my supervisor for like 2 years. It's funny that you mentioned Bill Adams because one of the guys that I was supervising for, Nick, well, you know Nick, I just won't use his last name, but I didn't see Nick for 2 years. He just popped up in the team room one day, and I was like, "Oh wow, dude, you still work here?" We were just on opposite cycles, but it was funny because at the time, Senior Adams gave me one of the biggest ass chewings of my life at the 321st. He was the op soup. And I was basically supervising a guy. He got into a funny story. I won't tell it here, but it just ended with him shouting at a chief across the parking lot going, "Eat a D." So Wild Bill Adams called me in and was like, "Hey, man, this has to happen." But he proceeded to jump knee deep into my butt. So it's a pretty good one. You brought that up, and I'll always remember getting yelled at. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Justin Fox, for getting me in trouble. But anyway, yeah. And so the upgrades are really, really hard to get. And there's always like some really tough items. So like Peaches is saying, you get to your unit, you immediately jump into that upgrade process, which is intense. And then you hope to just hit it right and knock it out. Because otherwise it could be another 2 years of training trying to get, a couple line items. So yeah, just wanted to clear that up. The upgrade process is a tough thing to try to explain.
Well, yeah, it really is unless you've been living it.
The pararescue 7-level upgrade process is notoriously difficult. I think there's only like 3 7 levels in the PJs in the entire Air Force right now.
I can't believe. Yeah, it's because it's like a championship belt. You're not allowed to have a bunch of 7 levels. There's only like 5, and then every once in a while there's a fight, and that title changes hands. But we don't make more TLs, right? It's just 5.
I've seen the big belt you guys have.
That's it. Yeah, it's a fantastic.
If we don't make
belt.
A PJ Kumite shirt, I'm going to be disappointed.
I'm gonna be upset of how many dudes. It's like you could have one per like active duty unit. So like the 2 series units of the ACC units, I'll get one. So yeah, but it is notoriously hard. It's hard showing up to talk about what we're here for. It's hard showing up to that unit because and I've seen it from both ends now as an instructor too. When the students leave, like you're like, okay, you're like a proud parent. You're like, I hope I did well by them. I hope they show up and they do good on the team. But you realize some people aren't. Some people are going to get there and their life is going to change and things are going to change with who they are as a person, and they're not going to get along with everybody on the team, or maybe it wasn't the right personalities for them to go to, and they're not going to do well. You kind of accept that. But on the other end, when you're leaving that pipeline, it's hard. It's hard to manage those. Like you did just get through 2 years worth of a pipeline. You do want to go there. You're like, you've been validated in a sense. You feel good. You're like, I graduated. I'm going to go to the team and I'm going to engage and I'm going to help out with stuff, and I'm going to get into this upgrade and knock it out. And man, it screwed me up for sure because I wanted to go and immediately put out, and I was a staff sergeant and I wanted to start, hey, all right, cool. And they were like, yeah, awesome, dude, take the trash out and shut up a little bit because I too am not a quiet person. Like I'm a big personality, especially inside of a team room. So
No.
I know. I think we all know that, right? Like, I'm not breaking any news here, but those expectations are hard to manage. Where do I fit in? How should I be interacting? Where is my place in this hierarchy? And then knowing how to navigate that, it's tough. And it's hard to manage those expectations going into any new space. And you'll do it when you go and support other teams, or you'll do it in the pipeline. Like, everybody out there listening right now, if you're like riding the pipeline right now, you meet different people at different schools, or for the PJs, they get put on long teams together. The paramedic teams are long, they're 6 months, 8 months together with the same group of dudes. And if you hit that one and the apprentice course, you're talking about spending a year and a half with really the same really close group of dudes, and those expectations will change inside of that dynamic too.
Right. And I think one of the things is the pipeline exists to teach very specific training items, right? That are lined out. But I think one of the things that we don't talk about is it also teaches you the lifestyle, more or less, right? I think it's more relaxed on team, and it's weird because you get there and you just came off this big high of graduation. And like you said, there's going to be some dude in the team room that's like, look, dude, everybody here has a funny hat. Like, go take out the trash and be the new guy. But I think if you expect that lifestyle of constantly upgrading and learning to end once you leave the pipeline, like, you're going to have a little dip, like, you get your graduation, you get to celebrate. But like, as soon as you hit that team room and you walk through that door, like, it's coming at you again. So, like, is it a blessing or a curse having that funny hat? You know what I mean? Like, the expectations don't change. It's because, like you said, you walk in, there's a room of heroes, for Jared's words, and how do you live up to that standard? Because that standard is your standard now.
Well, because then you're expected to be a peer. Like, that's not even, like, now you're not a student. There's nobody over the shouldering you. Like, you put your chute on, you go get. I distinctly remember jumping for the first time and going up to the JM and just being like, nobody really, like, my boy kind of like helped me throw my chute on. I hope this is right. Like, I go up and he JMs me, and we had this weird awkward pause where I'm just like standing there and we're kind of like looking at each other. He's like, well, I was like, nothing. Am I good? He's like, yeah, go sit down. It's like, all right. But it was
it's kind of weird, huh? With the instructor thing, because you're in a schoolhouse environment, and you're like, okay, well, I've got this umbrella of safety,
right?
Nothing could possibly happen, and then you get to the team, and you're like, well, wait a minute, isn't there an instructor here to help me out? No, dude,
I need an adult, and you're the adult. And then I'm always like, I need an adult here. Adult, is there somebody that's better than me that can help me out on this? So that's tough too, is making that switch, that no longer are you just a person that's going to show up with your gear when you're supposed to. You might be teaching the event that day. You might be expected to be the hardest skill position in that event. If we're jumping, you might be the number one man, and everybody might be following you to the point. Or if you're at that point in your career, you might be the stack master. You might be running the entire hey-ho offset or whatever it is that we're doing. So it never stops. There's always something that's going to pop up that is going to, challenge you and get there. But man, yeah, I distinctly remember thinking to myself, well, no more student stuff. Like, it's real now. If you screw something up, like, you're going to die. And I don't know why. Like, I'd done it a couple times, at least a handful of times before then. But I just remember thinking, oh man, you screwed this one up, Aaron. Ooh, there's nobody to blame but yourself and your schoolhouse instructors. Ooh.
Yeah.
That doesn't end, by the way.
I know, yeah, right? I'm waiting for that feeling to go away. I don't think it's going
to. It doesn't.
Right. I don't want to say like imposter syndrome, but there's always that anxiety of, because everything is kind of fire hosed in the community for everything. So I don't think that you ever, I've never felt comfortable with everything that I'm supposed to know and be good at and do. Obviously I can't even do an intro to a podcast. So, you just go out there and you do your best.
Well, but we're not firing you. So like, we're not voting you off the island or anything. So at least you're safe there. So that's good.
I'm worried about those West Coast secret meetings that y'all have,
The PNW, yeah. Gonna be chopping it up in the gym for PT in the morning, just talking about how to get you out of here.
Yeah. But as you move forward, I want to talk about this. I know this is a loaded question, Jared. If you want to take this, how far will the beret get you? And the first one is like deployment. Like you show up and say, I have a red hat. I'm a combat controller. Like how far does that take you with a sister service team?
Nowhere.
What?
In fact, if you came up to somebody and said that right off the bat, I'd say
That's a
they'd
tough
probably go,
opener.
"Yeah, that's cool.
That
Beat
is
it.
a tough opener. Cool.
We need
nerd.
somebody else."
We were talking about stuff and you interrupted. Just tell me what color your hat is. Oh, that's fantastic.
Hey guys, not sure if you noticed this, but yeah. So obviously you're not going to go and say something like that, but when, like for example, when the 18 X-ray for the ODAs, when that was first a thing, right? Which was, for all those that don't know, 18 series guys or Green Berets, it used to be that they had to do another job in the Army before they could then become a Green Beret, just because they wanted more mature, more seasoned folks. Then the 18 X-ray program started, and then they were taken. They had some saying for it, but it was basically off the street. They could become a Green Beret. They no longer had to go do a normal job. So, and then Afghanistan happened, and we had Somalia, we had all this stuff beforehand, and then Desert Storm and everything like that. But once September 11th happened, and every single ODA had a JTAC or a combat controller or a TAC-P with it, and then we'd get in a troops in contact scenario, and then, calling in close air support would help out the situation. We started to build a lot more credibility, and that's all it is. I mean, even if I right now were to go attach to a SEAL team or a Green Beret team or SAS or whatever that would be, I would still have to, even if some of them knew me and some of them didn't, I would still have to prove myself. That doesn't end, regardless of however you've been in. So, you have to prove yourself. You have to go in there. You have to perform. You have to show up to every single training event. You have to, you got to be Johnny on the spot when they're something, an airfield or some kind of medical triage, when there's some kind of recce mission. Like, you have to be Johnny on the spot and knock it out of the park just to help build that credibility. But going back to the 18 X-ray thing, like, there was a lot of like, hey, why would we have Air Force guys attaching to us? Like, why? And so there was a lot of that at the beginning. And then that goes away as soon as you get through your first firefight. So, yeah, that is my TED Talk.
I still think that's how you should start it off. Hi, I'm Jared, and I'll be your combat controller for the day. And then that's just how you should start every single interaction. No, we used to live that, obviously, in England, is it wasn't just okay to attach to a team. Like, you might be the only PJ they've ever had. We knew that wasn't the case with us, but that's how we approached everything. You might be the only time that anybody sees anybody from your career field. Like, you might actually represent a whole career of essentially perception for this person. So we always, if you were trying to win that number one gun during the week, you were trying to win every single PT event. I had a team leader that said, never miss an opportunity to just shut up. And then when something falls in your lane, just like you were saying, just absolutely knock it out of the park. Just crush it, wait for your moment, step up, crush it when, the music is going to stop and people are going to look at you, and it's going to be a moment where they're going to be like, okay, well, let's see what you got. And you can fail in that moment. These sort of things exist because there are bad perceptions. I have showed up to teams and had people go, hey, do you know this guy? And it's not in a good light. And you're like, yeah, I do. I hope he did what he did for whatever reason he did, but I don't know. I'm here to work now though. So let's fix some of those problems. But yeah, you do. There's definitely a lot of proving yourself, and people are going to know who you are when you go in there and you're like, hey, I'm the PJ. I'm Aaron, or, I'm the SR guy, I'm Trent. Like, there always is some perceptions that come along with that stuff, but it could be negative too.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm sorry, Trent, I stepped on you just because of the delay, but just to hit that real quick. And you are an ambassador for PJs, SR, combat control. Like, you're right. You could be the only dude that they've met as of now. And if you show your ass, like that's going to set everybody else up for a bad experience or having to try even harder to gain credibility.
Yeah, looking at you, pipeline students, all you cones out there that are sitting around, like that's what you don't understand. Like I used to flip out about this when I was an instructor, and I could never explain it really well. But your interaction with this one-off random, single serving friend in Salt Lake City, Utah, when you're having a drink in the airport, lounge, he might be the only person that he ever meets in his entire life that is an AFSPEC or, no kidding, like a candidate, like even somebody that's just in the pipeline. So where these stories come up where they were like, yeah, some students said that they were PJs, and they started having this conversation. Lo and behold, this person knew that person, and boom, now you're in trouble for saying you're a PJ. Like, we get mad at that because we cultivate that perception very well among the community. We are very tight knit. We are very aware of our perception, as an entire community. We do a good job of policing our own. So when those sort of things get out, we're like, oh, come on, man. You probably didn't need to do that. And that's why, at least from an instructor standpoint or from an old dude and old head standpoint, that's why I get ticked off at those things. It's like, hey, don't fly our flag. You haven't earned the right to fly that flag yet. And when you do, like, do so really carefully. So I don't know. It always annoyed me really bad when those stories would come out.
Well, I think one of the things I was trying to get at with this question too is, man, like you said, most people in the United States of America don't even know what that flag is. It's and I wanted to make it clear to everybody out there that's thinking about joining this community is we're not. Like, everybody knows the Navy dudes or whatever, and the Army guys and all that other stuff. But, we are the smallest force, I think. And we're everywhere. We're like the people that are everywhere that most people have never heard of. So I think I wrote down, like, how far does it get you in a deployment and in life? And it's just funny to even think about, like, because people that are out there that are like former Navy SEALs or whatever, and they can walk up to like a normal person and be like, yeah, I was a Navy SEAL, or it comes up in conversation. I'm not saying that all Navy SEALs are like pilots, but but like if you walk up to a person, you're like, yeah, I was an Air Force ground pounder calling in airstrikes or secret squirrel, or PJs are a little bit, some people know about them, like rescue people and all that, but you're going to get a whole lot of glassy blank stares back in your face. So if you're trying to get into this for like a built-in reputation amongst the general populace, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, pal. The number of times that you want somebody to ask about it is way higher than the number of times that people actually say something about it. Yeah, you can dress up in your silly off-duty operator uniform all you want. Put on all your 511, put on your team T-shirt, go have a beer, be like, I can't wait till somebody asks me to be an operator.
Oh my gosh.
We just got back off a jump trip. I got all these videos on my phone. This is going to be fantastic. Guess what? They don't care. Nobody cares. Half the people on your team don't care. So there you go. How's that for expectation management? Bam, in your face.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, and then getting back. So what do we judge each other on? Like, what is Aaron Love's reputation built on in the community? Or other people's reputations.
Lies and terrible stories, speaking for yours truly. So it's good. You start, the second that you get into the pipeline, you start building that reputation. You start building, everybody knows we're so small. You're one name away. If you drop any random controller's name, I can be like, oh, where does he work? Oh, okay, cool. And then somebody that works there. You're no kidding, one question away at all times from figuring out exactly at least what a guy's history is, right? Because our history is what's happened, like what are the things that we've done that are in our past, and then the perception is like, hey, what's the overall feel of this dude's character and how is he as a dude? Because we all have those guys that are like, oh yeah, terrible in the team room, good guy, nice guy, give you the shirt off his back, good dude, but just absolute tactical liability, terrible on target. Never jump with this guy, but no, he's awesome. He threw barbecues all the time. Anyway,
you got to throw out the disclaimer there, because you can say whatever you want afterwards. You can just go, hey, this guy, great dude.
Absolute tactical liability. Don't get any, if you guys are shooting weapons, just go ahead and sit that one out. Let him do what he's going to do, and then whatever. So, I think, it starts in the pipeline, and it starts with, a couple of those stories will come out and you'll get stressed, and there'll be funny stuff about all of us. We all have hilarious stories in our background where half the time I look at them, I just shake my head. I'm just like, God, I'm an idiot. But you have those collection of stories, and, you get a couple deployments under your belt, and you start to know, you have good assignments and bad assignments and stuff. And I don't think, we definitely hold each other accountable, because we are put in, you have one bad deployment where you run, a 4 to 6 month period of somebody's life and you make it miserable for them. Like, people are going to feel some type of way about that. Like, that's going to follow you and shoot you in the foot. Or if you don't necessarily work so great in admin and you're in an admin heavy position and you don't do so well, somebody's probably going to critique you for that. But, at least on our side of the fence, the controllers, you guys eat your young way more than the PJs do. The PJs are a little bit more like inclusive, like, hey, bring it in. We're gonna team through this thing. And you guys are just like, all right, well, can we murder this guy yet? Like, that was his first screw up. You can't kill him right away, dude. Like, the controllers on the team are like, so is this when we just basically publicly execute this guy? Like, he had a bad run. He had one bad day. Like, let's not cut him loose yet. They're like, well, we would have already killed him. You PJs are soft. You do whatever you want, Aaron. Why is that?
You think we're bad? TAC Ps are even worse, and then security forces are even worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, those security forces are the kings. I think kings. There's just so many of them. They don't care. They're like, I got 3 more E3s that can hop in here right now. I don't know what you're crying about.
Yep. No, I don't know why, and I try and at least have hopefully tried to change that culture, or revector that culture a little bit. And totally scaring people here. I get it's just I don't know. I guess probably because some of the mistakes that could happen or do happen could be, life ending or life limb or eyesight issues. You think about, you mess it up coordinates on a 9 line and you're dropping bombs on friendlies or maybe civilians. Like, that's life changing. So we're very, very tough on people when it comes to that, but there needs to be room for error. 100%. I don't deny that at all.
But you are very much judged on your performance, right?
Go ahead, Trent.
But you are very much judged on your performance. It's not, I don't know. Because candidates, people get wrapped around the axle about all this other stuff, and we make fun of them in the pipeline for the way that they look and the way that they talk and where they came from and all this other stuff. But I think once you get on team, we're still going to talk mad amounts of shit. But it's mostly, like your real reputation is based on your performance.
Yeah, for sure.
And it follows you too. If like I tell guys that come in to the unit, like, hey, I don't know what happened beforehand, like if you got in trouble or whatever, but you're coming to the unit with a clean slate. And I try and convey that to the guys that also are leaving the unit, is that, hey, I can't speak for the guys at the next unit, but your reputation they probably are already aware of you, whether that's good or bad. But so you just got to know. And it's if there's a stigma attached to you, it's tough to get rid of that, especially if you're a subpar performer.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yikes, sorry. It's just the reality of it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
They already know about it. You're already doomed. You can do whatever you want at this point, but get out of my office.
I'm like, I think it's time to hit the retirement button then. I think I'm about done.
I got bad news for everybody. I got to get out of here.
I mean, Aaron, are you telling me that before I showed up to the unit, and obviously there was probably a handful of people that knew me, were people not talking already, going like, the people that didn't know me sitting here and going like, hey, how is he? Who is he? That kind of stuff. Of course
they are, because we're a bunch of high school students at the very end of the day. Like, the drama club doesn't like the AV club, so you have to have these little rivalries, and everybody even has their little flag and their guide on. Like, it's just the silliness of it. So yeah, of course, people want to talk, ahead of time, and that stuff does definitely happen. Like, I won't even pretend like it doesn't. People gossip. One guy may know a story about you, whether it's a funny story or a good or a bad story, whatever, that stuff always floats around. For the record, though, now that we're on the podcast and this is going to be put out to the world, I always said nothing about you and just let people form their own opinions. They would say anything at all, and I'd be like, man, you need to talk to Peach about that. They're like, well, I mean, do you know him? I'm like, yeah, pretty well. And I would just let it go at that. I'd be like, yeah.
But so I guess I'm a little bit different than everybody else because all you got to do is go on to YouTube or Spotify
Right.
and then you can tell. Because I am, at least I think so, I am the exact same here that I am like in real life.
Right. Except with you yell a lot more in real life, which is great.
I cuss a lot more.
I like when you
I
get
100% cuss a lot more.
I like when you get all riled up. There's nothing better than a good motivated Peaches.
The biggest challenge to doing this podcast is not like figuring out something profound or good to say. It's not cussing.
Dropping F-bombs every other word.
Yep.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's hard. It's the struggle is real. And in that vein, I did want to ask, I think we've covered some of the other stuff, but who does talk the most smack? Because I remember one of the great things about once my career field was integrated with the 2 series units is instead of there being like this like weird thing, I could go into the team room and watch the J's and the combat controllers yell at each other. And then Attack P would walk into the room, and then it all re-explode into a whole nother conversation about nonsense.
Right.
And like the 2 gray hats that existed at the time could just sit in the corner and watch it all go down. And we're like, this is fantastic. I love this. But like in the greater soft community, like who does talk the most smack? And just and is it real? I think because that's another thing that I see these comments sometimes. They're like, oh, like why do these Green Berets like hate the Air Force guys? I'm like, dude, like we're just talking. We're just like I hate them as well. Like I say terrible things about them as well. But whatever.
Right, for sure. Well, everybody gets it equally. Like, first of all, there's nobody that gets undue attention except for Garand Thumb and former Seer guys. I don't have any tolerance for it. I'm just gonna call out somebody big every single podcast, see what happens. So yeah, Garand Thumb, you're out of here. That's what you get for also being in the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, I think it's one of those things too. Like if it comes down to it, that's the thing people don't understand is if you really dug into it with anybody that was saying anything mean about anybody else, it's never serious. It's never a thing where you're just like, yeah, I don't know. I just hate all of these dudes. You know, they're all stupid, whatever. Like that doesn't apply anywhere, whether it's Green Beret or if you're just in the Marines or if you work for the Navy or whatever it is that you do. Like it's really not a thing. So we definitely do talk a lot of crap. I can only speak. My favorite is the ST. I call them the crap talking points. Like the controllers, I don't know where you guys get it, Peaches, whether it's a pipeline thing or whatever, but you have like 3 talking points and somebody somewhere pulls every single combat controller aside and they go, all right, listen, if a PJ's got you dead to rights, like let's say he just outshot you, you're going to call him a sky nurse. And the student's like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. They're like, no, trust me. They hate it. They hate it. If you just say that they're like a nurse or if they're just like an EMT on a helicopter, trust me. It's going to just throw him for a loop and you won't have to talk to him anymore. The student's like, all right, cool. And then you guys get to the unit and then that is all of your shit talking. It is 3 bullet points. It's you're a sky nurse. I got into the Air Force to drop bombs and kill people. And everything other than being a JTAG is stupid. Ugh. And then that's the limit. Like if you just weather that storm as a PJ, you're good. You got all kinds of material. You just got to wait. They have a little card now that you just read through, but that's basically all you got to do with you guys, and then it's on because that's the extent.
There's a fourth, fourth, fifth.
Like
well, you got a trail of carabiners behind you, just hooked up everywhere.
There we go.
And you guys are big in the hacky sack. You're just
a
bunch of hippies.
I do it. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
Which I will get in on some hacky sack.
I've seen you play hacky sack before. That's the thing. I still don't know how that became, and maybe it is just because we're all a bunch of hippies at heart. But I have no idea how the hacky sack thing has gotten. But that's usually the talking shit for the dynamic, at least in the team room. And then you guys still, I like how you're like, yeah, then the gray hat guys can actually jump into the fray. No, you still hang out. You're just in the team room for it. You're in the background like this.
No, we just watch.
God, I hope they don't turn on us.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you have a TAC P guy that's like not that smart, that's the worst for it. Like if you have a guy that's not that quick on his feet and he's a TAC P guy, it immediately just becomes like the controllers are like warming up to go actually like have a one-on-one with a PJ. They have to like get their stuff together, and they'll like warm up on the TAC P. It's great. The weather guy, the former weather dude, now the SR guys, they're just like critique. Like, oh, that wasn't as good as the TAC P. You don't want to bring that to one of the J's. They're going to crush you, man.
Yeah, we just redirected back into the PJ combat control thing. Like, we just keep all the argument going there so that it's not coming our direction.
It doesn't
You just got to redirect it.
That's it. It doesn't spill off into your area. Like, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we established that combat control talks the most shit. All right, so I wrote some of these questions based on my own experiences, obviously, and so I wrote down, does the beret make the man? And then there's, are there complacency traps? Because I know for myself, it's easy, and we've talked about this a little bit before, it's easy to get to a certain point in your career, right? Whether it's getting the beret, whether it's getting some kudos, whether it's making having a good reputation, which is almost worse than having a bad reputation sometimes. Like, you go on, for me, I went on my first rotation, I came back, and you got people like trying to pat you on the back, right? Whether it's deserved or not, like the story that came back home that they got, you have like an instant reputation and things are good. But you kind of already accomplished all of these goals that you had set out for you. And if you're not, at least for me, I had a hard time moving past that and just being part of the process versus like, well, what do I do now? And am I really the man? Like in my like tiny little community of people that actually heard anything about what happened? And then how do you get past that, or how do you overcome those things and and keep moving forward and setting new goals? Anybody? I'm going to go to Jared with this one because he's got the most experience. Like a lot more experience.
Dude, that's... Actually, Aaron, you got this one. I'm sitting here thinking like,
Okay. Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Like, I've had times, no kidding, walking into the base exchange or walking into a store, and I had a uniform on, and I looked and I was like, holy crap, I'm a PJ. Like, you go through those ebbs and flows where you, no kidding, you live the life for so long, like you do random stuff. Like, I'm taken aback by the minutia of just like our everyday. Like, we have a joke, my son and I will joke around where there'll be some ridiculous, action sequence on from a movie, and I'll be like, hey, William, you know what we call that? And he's like, yeah, Thursday. And we have that funny joke, right? Like, oh, okay, yeah, we just randomly throw tanks out of C5s and whatever. But every once in a while, like, you have a day where you jump like 4 times a day, and somebody threw a medical scenario in at the end of it. Then you have a hilarious car ride home, and you go out to dinner with the team, and you kind of look back on that day, and you're like, man, this is not an ordinary life. It is not a bunch of ordinary things that you do. So I think the beret is one of those things where you have to earn it every single day. Every single day that you have that beret on has to be better than your last day. You have to realize that you're held to a higher standard. You have to kind of figure yourself out. And when you consistently understand like kind of the rules of that game, I think that the beret opens a whole life to you that is ridiculously like good. Like, it's a righteous mission. It's doing fun stuff at work. It's meeting awesome people. Like, all these things that we make it out to be, like, surprise, those are real. That's amazing. I think it's tough. People kind of lose sight of, they kind of flip it a little bit. They're like, oh, look at all these cool things that the beret does. Like, now I get to do all these cool things. Well, yeah, you get to do all those cool things because of, the beret and the career field and the reason why you're really here. And that's what you need to be focusing on. Like, it's totally good to have those fun times. And it's totally good to every once in a while be like, oh, dang, look how good I look in a uniform. Look how good these blues look with all these ribbons. Peaches step up in places looking like a Peruvian general. Just, looking good on that unit. But, like, I mean, it's fun. Like, that's good feedback. Like, you earn that. You earn that through your blood, sweat, and tears that it takes for you to get there, and, losses that you had in your career field. Like, it feels different, but I think you do. That's a big thing with me is like, you earn the beret every single day. You earn your position every single day. Like, when I'm not a good flight chief anymore, when I'm not a good PJ anymore, all right, take me out of ops and take me off the teams. I shouldn't be there. Like, I'll say that straight up. So I think if you let the beret make you, that's a pretty good thing. If you try to model your behavior after what we know a good PJ to be, a good controller, a good SR guy, a good TAC-P guy, we know what those look like. So if you model yourself after what that's supposed to look like, I think that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, though. We are held to a higher standard, as we should be. It's just like police officers out in the community. Sorry, but you are held to a different standard than your normal citizen. You just are, just like we are. And everybody gets comfortable at some point. And it's recognizing that and pulling yourself out of it, because getting comfortable is, it's like a slow death kind of thing, like we've seen it, and I am also guilty of it, especially after a permanent change of station, a PCS or a move, for those folks that don't know what that is. But like, I have a tendency to fall into a trap where I'm not necessarily training as hard as I normally would. I'm eating like crap, and I gain some weight. And we've seen some of those PJs, controllers, SR, TAC Ps, whatever, that, have gotten a little large, and they no longer go to the gym. They no longer show up. And you kind of see them and you're like, well, hey man, you're representing us. And not just that, like you can't perform very well either. So it's, recognizing that, whether it's, self-recognizing or somebody telling you like, hey dude, time to get off your ass. And you got to go out there and get after it. And I think I've said this on the podcast before. I don't remember, but like I remember being in the gym at Herbie at the 23rd, and I mean, I probably have a terrible look on my face whenever I'm working out, because I'm just in the pain cave, and it was probably obvious, because I had the commander come up to me, great dude, and he goes, Peaches, man, you've made it. You don't need to keep crushing yourself every single day in the gym. And I'm like, no, I absolutely do. Because if not, I will get comfortable, and then I'll just have this stink about me. And then my short ass will definitely start gaining some weight. You know that.
Like a little fire hydrant. Just running around, just like a little thick boy. just little thick stubby arms and whatnot.
But you find, I mean, dude, seriously though, you'll find yourself sitting on the couch watching TV for hours on end, and you're like,
yeah,
I didn't accomplish anything.
That's easy though. That's why it's way easier to go to Legendary Donuts and sit on this couch than it is to actually go work out. Duh.
Yeah. And then I see my dog gaining weight too, and then I'm like, I can't have
not
that.
Your dog. Don't do that to your dog.
No.
Dog.
See, and it's not that we don't care about you, but poor puppy. It's a little,
Maggie comes first. Maggie comes first when it comes to me, right? Her weight over mine.
Well, yeah, and I think everybody probably has to have separate or different strategies, right? So, like, I have to, like, there's that you don't want to project false humility and like say, hey, I've never done anything cool. But then, at least for me, right? But I do have to like disassociate sometimes with certain things. Because, I think we've all got pretty healthy egos, and we're kind of walking, at least for me, like a pretty narrow line. Because on one side, it's like totally disassociating myself with anything cool that's ever happened, and then, or letting the ego take over and being like, I am probably the coolest guy that's ever lived. Like, I don't know do you know who I am and what I've done? You don't know who I am?
You don't know who I am? Oh my goodness. Boy, we have a problem. You need to stroke my ego right away, or this conversation is over.
Yeah, sit down, kids. Daddy's got some stories, like. But I think there are traps, and I think I wanted to sit down and have this conversation because like I've gone through those things. I don't know if you guys have any stories of like I don't want to get too personal, but like I have to find something throughout my entire career to make me push forward, right? Like as an instructor, as a team leader or team sergeant, or or just coming home, right? And being a normal person and not letting things get to me, but also not like saying that none of this stuff matters. So, and then also for the people out there, just understanding what it means to be on team, what the expectations are, and what you get out of it. Like I don't think it opens doors for you. The beret and the community opens doors, but like who you are as a person at the end of the day and what you do every day is the only thing that really matters. And I think that's really what I wanted to get down to beyond the funny stories and the talking shit and all that other stuff. So I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to that.
No,
yeah, well, I mean, there's an expectation, right? Like, hey, if you're a controller, if you're an aspect war job, there's an expectation of how you should perform and how you should act. And if you retire or separate and then you do go, apply for a job, like, people are going to ask this. They are not just going off your resume. They are 100% going to call around and ask people. And just because you're, a controller, PJSR, whatever it is, does not mean that you're automatically going to get hired to that job. Like, you're just not. And going back to you're kind of walking around with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing. Like, that's true. I mean, we often, and I've heard it myself, that we get called, arrogant a-holes, and we probably do come across like that a lot of times. But, I try and have as much humility as I possibly can. But at the same time, like, you also want the folks that are going out and doing that, the hard things, the hey-ho missions from 25,000 in pitch black, or kicking down doors, or calling in CAS, or whatever it is, hanging off the side of a cliff to try and rescue a pilot. You want those people to have a certain confidence about them, to believe that they're going to go into this situation, and that is a really bad situation, and come out on top. Because if they didn't have that, then they are going to be more susceptible to failure and hurting themselves or others. So you want them to be extremely confident that they will make it out and they will, come out on top. I mean, just like I said, you got to have that with as much humility as you possibly can, and know that you are not entitled to anything. But yeah, we do have an air of arrogance with us.
I would say that's true. I mean, you can't have a group of people that no kidding believes that they can do the impossible without having people that believe they can do the impossible. Like, you need those people. Like, you're dead on. Like, there has to be a part of you that's like, oh, you're telling me it's impossible to run across this courtyard to get over to that person, to go over to that person. I can totally do that. Watch, So yeah, I think if for the only thing that I would wrap up the whole expectation management is just act like you're earning it every single day. Earn whatever position you have. Do a really good job every single day. Anytime you leave your workspace, anytime you're walking around your house, you should be able to be like, hey, I'm really proud of that effort that I put in today. And it cleans up a lot of your problems. That's as short as I can make it, Trent.
Dang. I think there's a people don't understand. I only come on this podcast for personal mentorship, because like, I just bring up stuff that I suck at, and I ask you guys questions like I know what we're going to talk about. I'm just here to get it from you guys so that I can, I'm like, oh, and also I want an excuse to be like, you need to live in the moment type stuff, all the hippie stuff that I like to bring up. But just live in the moment. No one cares about what you've done in the past.
This is your moment.
It's your moment.
Yeah.
Spaghetti on your sweater.
Just enjoy the journey, guys. Enjoy the journey. I love this journey for
live,
you.
Love, laugh, live, laugh, whatever that is. Yeah.
Oh my God! My daughter said that there's only gatekeep, boss babe, and gaslight. That's the new live, love, laugh. I've never been more.
I don't even know what that is.
I know. I had no. I was like, wow, she knew.
Wow. Well, I think
we must be wrapping it up, because Maggie's down here getting antsy.
All right, Mags, I'm sorry. All right, so in summary, no one cares about what you did yesterday. Earn it today. Move forward. Feel good about what you've done. And start a podcast with some mentors, so you can go on and ask questions and pretend like it's not all for your own benefit. Make sure you go check out the website, onesready.com. Pick up some of our merch. Things by the time this podcast drops will probably be amazing. And get yourself something for Christmas, and get your family something for Christmas at the shop there. And also check out all the people that help us out. Like today, we talked about Everly Stock. And then there's Outer Eggs Pomade, Hoist, all those other things, all your favorites. And appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and earn each breath, and we'll catch you later.
Later.
Later.